many acronyms in the real estate industry. Remember this one? REC. That is the real estate contract. And we are going to focus on the residential contract because that is what most of you will be purchasing. I'm Brandy with the Come Home team of Better Homes and Gardens, and I'm here this week with a tip if you are selling your house. The real estate contract is going to be the most important legal form that you will receive in your real estate transaction. So let's get started. The very top of page 1 is a serial number. And just like with your listing agreement that you signed when you put your house on the market, this serial number is very important because any subsequent addendum or additional legal form will tie back to this serial number. Now, section 1, where it says parties, that is where your buyer's name goes. So you're on the listing side, so you would be receiving this real estate contract. So the name of the prospective buyer goes in section 1. Section 2 is what type of property it is: single family home, condominium, etc. And also in section 2 is the address and the legal description. And again, you want to make sure that that parcel number and county is included in the legal description so that when you go to close, the title company has looked up the appropriate property tax information. Okay, now section 3 on page 1 is going to be really important to you as well because it talks about price. It not only talks about price, but it also tells you the means by which the buyers will fund the purchase. So section A says pursuant to new financing. If your buyers are getting a loan, section A will be selected, and then there will be a price next to the dollar sign. Below that, list different types of loans, and that is where the buyer will tell you what type of loan they're getting to purchase the home. Section C, under number 3, talks about cash. Cash is king. We like cash. So if you see number C selected and it's got the price that you love, that's a great thing. All right, on to page 2. On page 2, it talks about loans again. Now this page 2, is not necessarily as important for you as it is for the buyer because this is talking about protection for the buyer based on the type of loan that they are getting. Page 3, section 4 talks about agency. Number B says listing firm represents seller and selling firm represents buyer. This is where your listing agent is at one brokerage and the agent that brought the buyer to you is at a different brokerage. This is probably the most common type of transaction that you will have. Number C, where it says the listing firm and the selling firm are the same and represent both buyer and seller. Now, there's 2 different options here that could happen. It could be that your listing agent brings you a buyer. So you've got one brokerage representing the buyer and the seller. It could be that your listing agent and the buyer agent are different people, but they both hold their license at the same brokerage. In that case, section or number C would also be selected. And then finally, number D, selling firm represents the buyer and there's no listing firm. This is an example where a buyer agent has a client that wants to purchase a home that is listed for sale by owner. So that means that there is no listing firm. There's only a selling or a buyer agent, and that would be number D. Okay, we're going to do one more page, and then we're going to wrap it up for this video. And then the rest of the contract we will explain in next week's video. So, page 4, section 5, talks about loan and closing cost. Now, this is where your buyer will put in that they want you to pay for some of their closing cost. If it is a government loan, there are specific fees associated with that government loan, and any fees they're asking for you to cover will go in the section where there's a dollar sign. If they're not getting a government loan, or if they're getting a government loan and they want additional funds paid for, then that request would be put in the blanks down here at the bottom of number 5. Let's go on to number 6, application for financing. This is where the contract is actually an explanation to the buyer saying that once this contract is accepted, the buyer agrees to complete a loan application within 5 business days and also agrees to pay for any fees incurred by the lender. So any appraisal fees or credit reports or anything like that. That's what Section 6 is. Not super important for you, except to know that those buyers have 5 days to complete their application. Section 7 is going to say either yes, there is earnest money, or no, there is not earnest money. Pretty straightforward. Section 8 is a non-refundable deposit. Now, a non-refundable deposit is exactly that. It is an amount paid to the seller in case the buyer doesn't close. Now, if the transaction doesn't close and it's solely due to the fault of the seller, then the buyer will get their money back. Also, when the buyer closes, that non-refundable deposit will go as a credit on your closing documents. Now, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. If your buyer is getting a government loan, that buyer is recommended to seek legal counsel as to whether or not you can actually do a non-refundable deposit. So if your buyer selected a government loan on page 1 and they're also doing a non-refundable, make sure to ask your agent to check and make sure that that is something that they can even do. And then below that, this is where you're going to say, yes, we're doing a non-refundable, or no, we're not. So number A, the deposit is not applicable. That means there is no non-refundable. Number B, there is a non-refundable deposit, and this is where you put the amount. And it also says 3 options as to when that non-refundable check will be made to the seller. All right, that wraps up pages 1 through 4 of the real estate contract for residential property. There are 15 pages, so we have a ways to go. So make sure you come back next week and we'll try to finish up. If not, it might take 2 more videos, but we'll get to the end. I hope this information has been helpful so far. You're going to want to come back so that you can see exactly what you're signing, or really more exactly what your buyer is signing, that you're going to review before you make a decision as to whether or not you accept the offer. Thank y'all so much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.